Now that we sliced our sprites, we can animate our birds. And here in our sprites folder, we can click on this drop down arrow on our Flappy Bird sprites and we see all of the sprites that we have sliced. So here on the top we have our Flappy Bird Blue 1, 2, and 3. And notice here in this bottom right corner that when I change from 1 to 3, so when I change the sprites using my arrows, we see that the bird is flapping basically. Now, how can we animate this? Well, simply we can select each of these sprites. So from Flappy Bird Blue 1 up to 3, and this is the animation for the bird flapping. And we can simply drag and drop that in our scene, and this will automatically create an animation. And here we are prompted to name that animation. I have created an animations folder, and here we have a game birds folder, and inside of it we have blue, green, and red bird animations. So here I will save this in the blue bird animation folder, and here I will simply say blue bird flapping animation. And this will create automatically that animation, and we have our bird in the scene. And here I will simply rename it to Flappy Bird Blue. Now, if we run our game now, so click on this play button, we will see our bird flapping in the scene. We also want to create the idle animation for our bird and also a die animation. So how can we do that? Well, select the bird and go into the animation panel. If you don't have it, go under Window and click on the animation panel, and it will open that animation panel. So now here we can click on this and we can, select or create a new clip. So again, it's under this play button or under this, red button here. Click on it and then create a new clip. And this will create a new clip. So here we can, again, save it in our animations, game birds, and our blue bird animation, and click save here. And this will be our idle animation. So here we will name it idle animation, and now click save. Now we need to move this panel here in order to drag one of our sprites. So here we will drag one of our sprites, and we can drag the middle one where the wings are positioned basically at the middle. So simply drag it like this, and that's it. We have created the idle animation. In the same way, we will create our died animation. So we'll click here, create new clip, and we will save it here in our game birds, blue bird, and we will name it bird died animation. So click save, and we will drag the fourth image, which is our bird died animation. So simply drag it here, and that's it for our animations. Now we need to connect our animations, and we do that in the animator panel. Again, if you don't have this panel, go under Window and then click on Animator, and this will open that panel for you. And if you don't see these states here, these animations, simply click on the bird in the hierarchy panel, and then you will see all of the animations that we have created for that particular game object. Now, where this entry right here is pointing, this will be the default animation that will start on our game object when we start the game. And we don't want our bird flapping to be the default animation. We want our idle to be the default animation. So simply select the idle animation and then click select as default layer, and this will select or make our idle animation as the default animation on our bird. Now we will connect our animations, and we do that by using transitions. So we right click on the animation and click on make transition, and then we select the animation where we want to transition to. So we are going to move from our idle to bird flapping animation, and we are going to move from bird flapping back to idle. And we are also going to connect from idle to bird died, and also connect blue bird flapping animation to bird died animation. And now we will create parameters that we are going to use in the code to trigger these transitions. You can click here where it says parameters, and then you can click on this plus sign to add parameters. And we see that we can choose from 4 types. So we have a float, an integer, boolean, and a trigger. So here we are going to create 2 triggers as parameters for our animations. So the first one, I will name it flap, and the second parameter, I will name it bird died. So let me just type it right. So bird died. And these parameters we are going to use in the code to trigger these animations. Now, in order to actually make transitions from one animation to another, we need to click on these lines that we have created, which represent those transitions. And we see here that we have conditions that we need to set up, and when we fulfill those conditions, then we will make that transition. So we can click on this plus sign here, and here when we want to go from idle to flapping animation when we, well, select this flap or when we perform this flap trigger in our code. And we want to do the same here, well, from flapping back to idle. So again, we are going to use the flap, well, this trigger that we have created, this parameter here. And for these two, we are going to use this other trigger, which is bird died. So make sure you select this, so add conditions and select bird died on these two lines, because we want to go from idle to bird died or from flapping to bird died when we trigger this bird died trigger in our code. We are pretty much done with the animations for our birds, and I will just run the game so that we can see now that we are playing the idle animation as the default animation on our bird, because previously our bird was flapping and now in the animator we set the default animation to be idle. And I will not, well, animate two other birds, well, in the video, because you can do that on your own. Just follow these same guidelines because everything is basically the same, and you can animate those birds on your own. And now we can, well, continue with the rest of the course.